Hey now, welcome back. I'm Virginia, and today we are wrapping up my December reads, what I loved, what I'd recommend, maybe what I wouldn't. Either way, we're gonna talk about it all today. For now, let's dive into book number one. So the first book of December that I actually read was Long Shot by Miss Kennedy Ryan. Now this is actually a part of a 3-book series, so this is actually gonna be about 3 of the books that I read in the month of December, which is Long Shot, Block Shot, and Hook Shot. Long Shot, being the first book that I read in December, was a great kick off to the month. Let me tell you, this book right here it's definitely a thick one, but it's so good. When I say I zoomed through this whole entire series in probably a week tops, I kid you not, I could not stop reading it. Now I will say, please read the trigger warnings if you decide to read these books. I definitely recommend them, but we'll go ahead and get a little bit into Long Shot, and I'll kind of share with you guys what I think and what my favorite of the series may have been. So Long Shot follows the story of August and Iris. This series is a sports romance kind of centered around basketball. For me, that drew me in because I am in the sports world. I'm married to a coach, so I was like, okay, let me see what the sports romance vibe is like. And so this follows August, who is a collegiate player that goes into the NBA. Iris is just a lover of the game who actually eventually goes into sports management, sports agency, and things like that. So it's really kind of dope. And so they kind of meet. It's almost like a friends / enemies to lovers type vibe. Iris and August meet. Iris is actually dating another player that's on another team, but that August actually knows and is not too fond of. And they get to know each other, but it's like they get to know each other, but they're not supposed to go each other. So it's almost like a forbidden love type thing. And some things transpire. Like I said, definitely check the trigger warnings, but it's such a beautiful story. I feel like it's a redemptive story. I feel like it's an encouraging story for anyone that may read it, but it does have some deep things in the book that are covered, which again, if you read any book by Miss Kennedy Ryan, then you know that she does a great job of addressing real life topics, real life situations and struggles that everyday people face, while also making sure that they get their happy ending and that they come out on top. And so I really enjoyed this book. It was a hard read, but it was a good read. And when I say hard, I mean just because of some of the things that Iris experiences in the book. There were some sad moments, but there were lots of happy moments and good ones as well. So I highly recommend that this book be on your TBR if you've not read it before. And then the next in the series is Block Shot. Now this book follows Banner and Jared. Jared is the brother of August from the first book, Long Shot. And I talked a little bit about it in my previous video, but I didn't go into detail about the rest of the books in the series. So this one follows Jared and Banner. Jared and Banner meet in college. They're pretty much longtime friends, or to some degree. He reveals that he actually has a crush on her and things like that. Some things transpire, lies might be told, who knows? And they end up becoming enemies. So it's friends to lovers, and then enemies to lovers. It's like all of the things going on in this book, which is kind of what makes it a little bit unique. I love how it's interconnected with the characters of Long Shot as well. And I will say that this one was my least favorite of the bunch because it just was a slow start. I was kind of thrown off initially when it started, but I also, in all fairness, I didn't really connect the dots to who Jared was initially, and so it just kind of threw me for a loop that we're starting in college and these things are happening. It was just like, wait, what? But once I kind of figured out what was going on, and once the dots were connected in the book and Iris and August were reintroduced to the story, I was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense than I thought it did, and we can carry on. And from that moment I was hooked. Once I got what was going on, once I connected them to the previous story, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Now let's keep on going. And so like I said, this is pretty much, you have friends to lovers, and then lovers to enemies, and then enemies to lovers again. So it kind of covers all of those scopes and tropes rather. And so I think it's like one of those, like, it was my least favorite, but you have to read it in order to get to the next one, which is Hook Shot. Now Hook Shot, Okay, Hookshot follows Keenan Ross, who is the teammate of August. Okay, so remember, we got to keep it all together. He's a teammate of August who's in the NBA. He's an old head. He's a divorcee, father, and things like that. And then he ends up meeting Iris's cousin, Lotus. They end up having a roller coaster of a ride. I will say that. And so there are some things also in this book that she experiences that, again, I want to remind you to read the trigger warnings and make sure that you are aware of what you are getting yourself into when it comes to reading this book. Especially, it kind of talks about some things that Lotus experiences that are more than less than favorable, but that is also something that is common that a lot of women have experienced at some point in life, unfortunately, or know somebody that has experienced this or has heard a story about it that it's just heartbreaking, to be quite truthfully honest. But to read and see her get her happily ever after, and also Keenan, because in this book they go through a journey. Both of them have their own journey. Again, Keenan is a divorcee, so he is dealing with the after effects of divorce, what it is in his family. The interactions with his ex-wife are crazy. Okay, let's start there because I want to beat Bridget up. Okay, his ex-wife is Bridget. She was going to get that tussle. Okay, but it just kind of shows the journey of that and how that divorce affected the family and what that all looked like, and then bringing in another woman to the picture and what that kind of looked like. But it deals with grief, it deals with different types of abuse, unfortunately. And so, like I said, you definitely want to make sure that you read the trigger warnings when you are reading this book. But it is so good, and I honestly think I honestly can't choose. I can't choose between Longshot and Hookshot as far as which ones are my favorite, but I love both of them. They are both such heavy hitters. But again, one thing with Kennedy Ryan that you never have to worry about is if there's going to be a happy ending. You will always see them get their happy ending, and sometimes that's good to know, and sometimes it's like, dang, like I wish I didn't know. But you never know the in between. You never know the how. You never know, like, you can't pinpoint exactly how it's going to be. And so I think that's also the benefit of it. Like, that's also something really cool about just Miss Kennedy Ryan's writings. Another book that I read in December was Between Lovers and Friends, and this one is by Miss Shirlene Obobi, and this book was really good. It was a really cute story, a really cute romance. I actually loved it. It follows the story of Dr. Jojo. I shared a little bit about this on TikTok. It follows the story of Dr. Jojo, or Joe, and Ezra and their journey. Ezra is actually an author. He's a writer, while Jojo is, as I said, a doctor. And so they kind of navigate things pretty interestingly. What's interesting is Dr. Jojo is actually a virgin. She's never really been in a real relationship, but she has this childhood friend that she grew up with that she actually secretly loves. She eventually gets the courage to really reveal that to him and just kind of see where things go. And he doesn't respond in the way that she'd hoped he would, or he responded a little bit too late, I'll say that. And so she has to make a choice between what she once desired but felt rejected from, or to accept and allow herself to be loved in a way that she has always desired to be loved, with surety, with assuredness, and a confidence like never before, which is what Malcolm gives her. Malcolm comes into the picture and he's just like, yeah, no, you're awesome. He affirms her. He is confident about her. He is sure about her. He is clear, and he communicates that. And so she makes a choice between her friend that finally eventually wakes up, kind of, sort of, after she's been with him while he's just run the streets, played the fields. He's this well-known person that all the women flock to, but she's his go-to person. She's his anchor. And so it's just, he kind of sends mixed messages in a sense. And I think he always thought that he might have her in a certain capacity. He always leaned onto her because there was a tragic, traumatic event that happened in his life, and she actually was the one that saved him. And so they've always had this deep connection and yearning for one another that was just unspoken. Yeah, like I said, it's just a really genuine, heartfelt book, and I really enjoyed reading it. So I definitely highly recommend picking this up if you haven't already. I'm definitely looking forward to reading more of Miss Obobi's, I keep messing up her name, I'm so sorry, Miss Obobi's books. Another book that I read which is one of my last reads of December that I was not expecting, was Beautiful Broken Love by Shanora Williams. Now, this book was so cute. I actually really enjoyed it. Now, this book follows Davina and Deke Bishop. So Davina is a widow that actually lost her husband to an illness. He died literally in her arms. And so she's on this journey of what life means after and in grief, right? How does she explore love? How do you go about relationships? He gave her his blessing to move on, of course, and to be loved and things like that. But obviously it's hard when you lose somebody that you love. I know I couldn't imagine losing my husband and having to navigate new love relationship, because obviously there can be a sense of loneliness or a desire to be loved and to still love, you know what I mean? And so knowing people that have been through that, I just can only imagine what type of pain that is. But Davina is navigating grief and also navigating this intense connection and drawing and yearning that she has for Deke Bishop, who she meets when her company reaches out to him to be a spokesperson or the face of her brand. And that has to deal with, or her brand or her business that has to deal with skincare, which was out of the norm, but they did it. And it was an instant electric connection between the two of them as soon as they met that they couldn't deny it. They tried to, it didn't end up working, basically. And so Deke is also trying to navigate love and relationship in the spotlight. And so they go through this private situation and turn public, and he's navigating a form of grief as well when it comes to his family and his relationship with his father and dealing with the loss of his brother. And so they both can kind of relate in a sense that they didn't know until they decide to be open and honest with one another and let each other in, because they know that they care for each other. And so once they do that, it just opens up a whole new world and ability for them to love and to be loved. And it's just, like I said, it's just a beautiful story that I definitely would recommend. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I said, it was an unexpected read for the end of 2024, but I'm so glad that I read it. I tried this whole holiday seasonal read situation because I just wanted to kind of see if I would like the little stories. Now, I will say the two books that I read, because I did read two, I enjoyed them. The first one was A Novel Christmas by Charity Shanae, and I'll put it up on the screen because I don't have the physical copy of the book at the moment, but I do plan to get it. This book was a really cute story. It was definitely like that cute, Lifetime little story, not as fleshed out as some of the other books that I've read, but it was a cute Christmas story for sure. Nonetheless, there were some cheesy moments, but overall it was really cute. And so it follows the story of Zaira and Dorian. Dorian is a firefighter and a hometown, favorite, if you will. Zaira is actually a writer. She's an author who is challenged to write a Christmas book for her next book to help with her ratings and help with all of the things that go into that. And so she decides that she's going to do some research. And so she finds this little town called Santa Claus. And so she decides that she's going to spend the current Christmas holiday there to just get a feel for the atmosphere, get a feel for the people in the town and what it's all about, because it's just very well known, as you can tell by the name of the town, Santa Claus. Like, it's very well known for their Christmas spirit and the things that they do in the town. And so she decides that she's going to go there. And the Airbnb that she stays in is actually a property of Dorian's. He's currently living next door because it's a duplex. And so he's currently actually living in the duplex next door. And so they end up meeting, and he hasn't dated. He is a widow. He lost his wife to cancer, and the reason why he's even in the small town because he played professional ball, and he moved back to the town because his wife was from the town, and they knew that she was dying and she wanted to be buried there. And so they bought a house there. He wanted to honor her wishes, of course, as he should, but he also can't bring himself to leave the town, and he couldn't bring himself to date anyone else until Zaira comes along. And so Zaira is that girl. They just end up connecting. She also ends up seeing him and having this spark. And so they try to kind of, deny it, hide it for a little while until it becomes unbearable, and they end up really exploring that. The one thing that I will say about this book is that it just felt like it ended on a cliffhanger. Like I wanted more. I wanted to know how they actually ended up, because Zaira ends up going home where she actually lives, and while Dorian does end up following her to go talk to her because some crazy stuff transpired, he ends up going and finding out where she lives and showing up. And I just want to know what happened after that. Like I want to know, like, did they get together? Did they stay together? Is he gonna move there? He's in the process of selling the house, but is he moving with her? Are they gonna find somewhere else to live? Like, what are they doing? You know what I mean? So that was the only thing. I just wish I knew more. I kind of was left wanting a little bit more, but overall it was a good read, and I'm glad that I did read it. I guess I might incorporate seasonal reads from time to time around Christmas time and maybe like Valentine's Day or something like that. I probably definitely will not be doing a seasonal read for like Halloween or October. I ain't fooling with that. It's enough for me. But I did enjoy it. This book was actually a really good palate cleanser from the books that I had been reading, because as you can see, some of the books that I was reading was actually really heavy, and they could just weigh you down a little bit. Not necessarily in a bad way, but they were just very, very packed with a lot of things. They weren't shallow, to say the least. I'm trying to find the word and I just can't right now, but you get what I'm saying. The next holiday read that I read was Christmas in Spite of You by Casey Mills. Now this one was kind of cute. It was a lot of little banter back and forth. I did enjoy that. And this follows the story of Kenton and Noelle. So Noelle has this apartment. She's kind of struggling right now. She's trying to figure out what she's doing with life. She wants to have this business, but it's not going the way that she wanted. And she is an avid Christmas lover. So she's used to going home and being around her family. Like she's a big holiday girl. And unfortunately she's under the weather, and some things just transpired that are not favorable for her to actually be able to go home. And so she just kind of opts out this year. But in an effort to make more money, she decides to kind of list her apartment as like an Airbnb or a shared space, if you will. And so Kenton, his business, his company is needing to obtain this partnership. He really wants to do business with this man that lives in the area that she is. So he's looking for a place that he can stay. And so his assistant books this place thinking that he's gonna go. He's supposed to have her apartment for the time, but she ends up not going where she's supposed to go, wants to cancel his reservation, but she does it wrong. So he ends up showing up and it's in the apartment, and they just decide to make it work. Which is really weird, to be in an apartment with somebody that you really don't know. So he's put on the couch, he's sleeping on the couch. He's not even sleeping in a bed, honey. And they end up just kind of peeping each other for a little bit and flirting, and one thing leads to another, and they realize that they really actually enjoy each other and they really actually want to explore what their connection is. And so they just begin to do that, and it's really like a unconventional type situation, but it was cute nonetheless. I wasn't expecting it to kind of be like that. I don't know what I was expecting, because I tend to just read the books and not necessarily do too much of a deep dive on what books are about. I'm getting more in the habit of doing that, but I've been enjoying reading certain books blindly so far, and I feel like it's worked in my favor, so I might keep on going. Now, another book that I read in the month of December was A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. This book right here was I just loved it so much. I actually just did a review over on TikTok, so definitely be sure to go check that out. But if you haven't seen it, it follows the story of Ricky Wilde. That is really her name. And she meets this man by the name of Ezra. So Ricky is the youngest of 3 daughters, and she's kind of like the outcast. She's the one that they make fun of. They have a family business that's actually a funeral home, and she's the one that just opts not to go into the family business. Now, she works with them for a little while, but overall she does not want that to be her career. She doesn't want to settle for it like her sisters have and just kind of do what their dad says to do and what their mother says to do. And so she decides that she's going to take a risk after meeting this lady that comes into the funeral home needing to bury her husband, and she tells her about this open spot or this store that's actually vacant. And so Ricky decides, I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to go after my dreams. I love making floral arrangements. I'm really good at it. I have a following on social media. People know me and they know my work. And so I'm going to explore this more. This is where my passion lies. And so she decides to take a leap of faith and move to New York. And this lady kind of helps her and kind of becomes like a grandmother figure to her. So she opens up a floral shop in New York, and she eventually starts to kind of put these bouquets around at just landmarks. One of my favorite things about this book is the historical backing and background that it gives, because the landmarks that it speaks of are actually real ones, and it talks a lot about music and jazz and just the time, just life during that time in a very unique way and with a twist. So just be prepared. But I love that. I enjoyed it because I'm a music lover. Okay, I'm a music lover. I love like the Harlem Renaissance times. I love watching movies and learning about those things. And so having that historical stamp in here of different landmarks that are actually real places that I can go visit today is crazy. But it's just my favorite thing. But she has this unique idea to make these floral arrangements and to place them at these historical landmarks and to post about them. And so people begin to gravitate and they begin to take them and kind of spread them out into different places as well. And so that obviously brings traction in business to her floral shop. So she gets this big contract and all these things, but she goes to a wedding. On the flip side, she ends up running into this man by the name of Ezra, and their first interaction is very off-putting and kind of very strange, but it intrigues her. I told you, Ricky is she different now. It intrigues her, and they end up running into each other a couple more times and eventually having a conversation about the undeniable, right? Which is that there's a connection there, and there's just something there that's not normal, but it's something that they can't deny. And so they begin to explore that. They begin to uncover things historically. They begin to just kind of do some digging and talking and opening up, and they just discover some really crazy things and go through this just unique journey of joining together and loving each other and exploring that love in that relationship. This is a book that I really can't even explain that well, because if I tell you too much, it's gonna crack it wide open and I won't be able to stop. But I definitely highly recommend, because I don't think it'll be a read that what you think it will be is probably not what it will be to you. So I really thoroughly enjoyed this book by Miss Tia Williams. I can't wait to read another book by her. That is all the books that I read in the month of December. December was such a great month and really, really reminded me why I love reading so much with the picks that I chose. And so I am just looking forward to continuing on this reading journey and the books that I'm going to be reading in January. I don't know what all of them are going to be because I have not picked them out. I kind of just go with what I feel in the moment, but I just keep a running list on my TBR. And so I've been enjoying doing that way. I know some people like to pick out every book that they're going to read for the month, and maybe one month I will try that, or maybe I'll let y'all help me and pick the books that I'm going to read for the month. But either way, those are the books that I read for the month of December, and I thoroughly enjoyed every last one of them. Because honestly, what I love about them is that it's not about the stories, but the moments that reading these stories creates in my life. And so it's been just such a joy-filled journey thus far and experience, and so I'm just excited to keep it going. But if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification button so you don't miss any of the videos. You don't want to miss the videos. You don't want to miss the videos. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss the videos and what we have coming up. So be sure to hit the notification bell so that you can be in the know. And let me know in the comments, what was the best book that you read in the month of December overall? Because y'all know, like I said, I keep a running list for my TBR, so I want to hear your recommendations because I might want to add it to my list too. So help your girl out and leave your recommendations below. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching and being a part of my bookish journey thus far. I'm excited about all the amazing reads in 2025, and I can't wait to share them with you. Until next time, bye.